Hi, this is Will with My Spiritual Clarity. Today's video is on a visibility myth, which is I have to have it all figured out first. This myth is so prevalent in our entire society because of mostly school, but also in our families where we had to have the answer first. We weren't allowed to raise our hand and figure things out with a teacher. We had to raise our hand with the exact answer. We weren't allowed to go up to the chalkboard and work out a math problem and be in the vulnerable discovery of what is the correct answer. We had to get up and already know the answer for many reasons. It wasn't just the fault of the education system. It was also, we're kids, we're teenagers, we don't want to look bad in front of other people. And so we bring that into our business. When it comes to our niche, or when it comes to our visibility or our messaging out in the world, we think we have to have it all figured out and know exactly what we're going to say before we get out there, or to know exactly our ideal client and how to best work with them before we even have worked with enough of them. And this leads to a lot of bad things. This leads to bravado, this like, oh, I know how to work with my ideal clients. I know how to get them to 10K months. When you don't, you've never actually done it before. Or the opposite, being a doormat, or falling backwards too much and saying, oh, I'm not really an expert in anything. I have a couple skills, but I'm not really an expert, which is not owning your expertise, which is part of the imposter complex and the 8 pillars of the imposter complex that I talk about. So what is the solution? Well, first is to recognize that it's a myth and to find that middle path. I talk a lot about the middle path, kind of what they talk about in Buddhism, of the middle path. It's not about being that bravado and pretending like you have it more figured out than you do, but it's also not being completely a doormat and deferential, I believe the word is. It's about being deeply honest. So if the myth is that you have to have it all figured out, then the solution is you have to be honest. So when I first started working with clients, I would say, hey, I've got this free session. It's 25 minutes. What people have told me so far that they've experienced is that they feel lighter, they feel more clear, they feel better after the 25 minutes. And that's all I had. That was the only real promise that I had. I had nothing more specific. I didn't have a niche. I didn't have anything worked out. But I just went and I did a couple hundred of those free sessions. And yes, some of those people signed up as clients. And the more I did, the better I got at that, and the better the results, and the more people signed up. But it wasn't until at least, I think it was 50 sessions in, that I started to say, oh, and I'm also noticing that people, specifically business owners, and even more specifically healers and coaches and sometimes therapists, sign a new client within 24 to 48 hours of working with me. It's not everyone, but I'm noticing that happens kind of consistently, like one out of 10. So that's a possibility. And so I'd share that with people that were looking at booking a session. And then I started to notice, oh, healing relationship with God, that comes up often, which is crazy in a 25-minute session that comes up all the time, or as often as it did. So I started to add that into my promises. So it was only through doing the work, it was through being willing to not have it all figured out, that I was able to develop a niche and develop my expertise around healing your relationship with God, the 8 pillars of the imposter complex, and the helper's paradox. And if you haven't heard me talk about that before, look it up on some of my other videos. It's the idea that the more a person needs to help, the less able they are to help, which also ties in really nicely with this idea or this myth that you have to have it all figured out, that you have to know what you're going to say first, you have to know your niche and your ideal client first, you have to know your expertise first. That's because it's tied to, at least, this belief that you need to help people. Because if you need to help, if that need is the biggest thing in the room, you can't just show up and discover what's there with the client, and discover how you might best serve them, or discover that they're not the right client for you. Discover that you have no business working with this client. I have that come up sometimes. I get on a call with someone and I say, oh, wow, we're not a fit. I have no business pretending to help you. Your thing is none of my areas of expertise, and it would be a waste of time and money for both of us if we continued. So before I got in this video, to make this video, all I had was that myth. It came in from a question from someone who saw some of my content. They had that question around niche. I realized it was very connected to visibility, very connected to building your business in general. And then I hit record. And this is the video that I made. I'm willing to figure it out in the discovery with you, not live because it's a recording, but live in the energy of the moment. It's something that I love to do, but that's come from hundreds of hours working with clients, hundreds of hours of free sessions and videos. I'm up to over 200 videos on YouTube now. So be willing to be vulnerable in the moment of discovery with clients. Once you hit record, there are many frameworks of how to say or how to practice saying what you want to say, and how to create your ideal niche, etc., etc. But I have found that the most important is you've got to be willing to be in the vulnerable moment of discovery and find out what comes next. Have an amazing day. If you like this video, please do like or subscribe down below, and I will see you for more in the future. Bye-bye for now.